Deputy, I understand you're sharing with Deputy Murphy and Deputy Wallace. Is this agreed?
That's right.
You have 30 minutes in total in this
Okay.
slot. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Obviously, Minister, anybody out there would welcome the fact that you've abolished imprisonment of people for such small, relatively small debts. People never should have gone to prison in the first place for not being able to pay a television licence. As we saw the case last year, a woman in Donegal driven down in a taxi to be brought to jail in Dublin. Absolutely ridiculous. But the timing of this debate, we have to say, not on a normal sitting day, etc., but also, yet again, targeted at the debts of the little people, €500 to 4,000 in the context of the debt crisis and the debt burden in this country. When will we see the government bringing forward a bill to deal with the debts of the big people? Or is it just write-downs that they get, such as NAMA developers now getting write-downs on their debts, which we were told would never happen by the previous regime, and also the likes of Dennis O'Brien and the 1% getting write-downs from banks and from government as well. So let's look at what is and isn't in this bill. This bill has been talked about for a long number of years. It's been brought forward now to coincide with a mass boycott of the water charges. But this bill won't and can't deal with a mass boycott campaign. It cannot deal with hundreds of thousands of people refusing to pay a debt on principle, and it won't deal with that. Now, the hope of the government is that the publicity will be enough to give that impression, but hopefully the real message will get out. Because the Minister is somewhat disingenuous when she refers in her speech to the water charges at quite an early stage, because the debt has to be over €500 and up to 4,000. So that would mean for a single person, it'll be at least 3 years or more before they could be brought in front of a court to have an attachment for non-payment of water charges. And for a family, it'll be more than 2 years as well. So the earliest anyone could come under this for boycotting water charges would be 2017, 2018 and 2019, well after a general election and a new government is in place, and hopefully we'll have had the abolition of the water charges at that stage if the campaign is successful. Now, what the bill makes clear as well is that you can't deduct water charges at source. I'm glad that that one is being nailed on the head. It can't be taken directly from people's incomes, from their social welfare, that there must be a court process first, and every case has to be individually heard. A person is entitled to have representations made, their finances have to be looked at, and an assessment of affordability has to be made. So there are hundreds of thousands of people boycotting the water charges. Someday soon we will get the figures. We don't know yet. But we know that it has to be hundreds of thousands, purely on the basis that 30% haven't registered, and many, many more than that who've registered won't pay. And the reason that they're doing this, Minister, is it's against privatisation, it's against austerity, and it's against a political betrayal, and a broken promise in particular by the Labour Party. But this process in this bill today is very clunky. There's no fast tracking of water charges cases, as has been pre-reported in the media. There won't be any way to streamline and to segregate people and bring them to court. In fact, solicitors have been sending us emails and complaints saying that there's no way that they can deal with this issue. And every case has to be heard in court before an attachment could be given. And there isn't even a guarantee that an attachment could be given. A judge does have the discretion to distinguish and not to impose an attachment order. Under Section 9 of the bill, representations have to be made, or can be made, and there's a protected earnings rate. Now, in the Minister's speech, she assures us, and hopefully this will come to pass, that the proposals provide that the debtor's situation must be assessed by the court deciding on enforceability, so the attachment of earnings or deduction from social welfare cannot cause him or her undue hardship or encroach on basic income sustainability to ensure basic living costs can still be met by the debtor. Now, we do know that the government has a very stringent interpretation of what people can live on, because they've decreed this week, and today people are going to feel it, in particular women, who are 96% of lone parents, that it seems to be that the government think that people can lose 50, 80 and 100 euros a week and it won't cause them undue hardship, and we all know that that's the case. But also people who are taking part in a mass campaign of boycott of the water charges. Every single case must be heard, all their finances must be looked at, and then they can also appeal. So this will be extremely drawn out, and there is no way that this instrument can deal with a mass collective campaign of non-payment. Just to correct something that a previous speaker said, there are no water allowances anymore. That was done away with. It's a flat rate water charge, and they can't reduce water pressure, and it's just important that as TDs we give people the correct information. That was done away with under the pressure of the campaign. And in fact, what we have now is that a millionaire pays the same as a low-paid worker in water charges. How could that be in any way just or fair? But because of the fear and the knowledge that people knew that this was going to escalate, the government had to try to bring that in. So finally, what I would say is, from this legislation, people have nothing to fear who are engaging in a campaign against the water charges. Mass non-payment can sink Irish water. It's mass non-payment that will force a future government to abolish Irish water, and it will also be what will bring on the political pressure and will render this process in this civil debt bill inoperable. There is no way that hundreds of thousands of people, anything from 500,000 or more, can be brought to court. The courts will not be able to cope, and it would also be at least 2 to 3 years before anybody could face it. And I guarantee you, Minister, that there will be either there will be a mass campaign which will bring down Irish water, but this certainly won't deal with people boycotting the charge.
I now call